Greetings, friends and future friends. Today's video is on the Korg Pa5x. I call this Samples to Pads / the Matrix. Now, the question was asked to me, can you bring an MP3 file into the Pa5x and create a pad for on the deck of the computer or in the Matrix? And I hate to say you can't really do it that way. Because to create a pad, you first got to create a sound. And to create a sound, you need to create a sample. And the sampler on the Korg Pa5x will only allow you to import WAV files. And a little trick there is that when you're importing files into the sampler, you got to put that WAV file into a folder because it seems like the Korg Pa5x only recognizes folders. Once you do that, you import that file into the sampler, create a sound, and then you can create a pad from that sound. So first, to answer that question, you're going to have to convert your MP3 over to a WAV file. So let's get in the studio and I'll show you how that stuff works. Okay, before we get started, I just want to clarify a couple things so you know what I'm talking about before we zoom into the screen, because I want you to see what's on the screen more important than what's on the deck of the keyboard. These are the 4 pad buttons I'll be talking about when we talk about the pad buttons. And of course, you know, when you push these pad buttons, when you get them to play, then you hit the stop button, it'll make that stop. And over here is the matrix. And we can run that matrix inside to software in the screen, but we can also push the buttons out here. And if you're pushing a sample or something running in the matrix, you can come over here and push the stop button to make that stop. And the player 1 button will be the button we push when we go to record a pad. That'll be the button we push. It'll be a record start button. And then, of course, we have exit and menu. So once you understand that when we zoom into the screen, you're not going to see these buttons because I really want you to see what's on the screen, more important than I'm pushing buttons on the keyboard. But again, pad buttons, the matrix, menu button, exit, record, edit, and then player 1 start and stop. The first thing I want to tell you before we get too deep into this tutorial is I want you to understand that there's a difference between a sound and a pad. A pad is actually a MIDI sequence using a sound, where a sound is just basically a sample. And what I want to show you is, like right now I have Chain the Fools, and if we play that, we have variation 1 going on. And that's the style that I have up in player 1. And if I play pad 1, you can hear it is a snap, you know, somebody snapping their fingers. So if we go to Mixer, which we are on Mixer, and we go here and we look, we see that this says sound up here. And now we're looking at all these different sounds. So what's happening is that pad is going to play a MIDI sequence from this sound. So if I play this pad 1, but if I change it to Latin percussion, you can see that the sound has changed. So it's different. It's bringing in a bank of sounds. So what the Korg Pa5x is doing is looking at that pad sequence and bringing in a multiple sound type thing, you know, a sound that you created. If you have any information or you need information on samples, go back and watch the last 3 videos I did on how you sample, create a multi-sample, and then create a sound. So basically these are all sounds. And if I go to user, Jazz EAB was a sound that we created. So let's go back. Let's exit out of this. And now I want to show you when you go to keys. Now let's go to pad 1. Now you're going to see this changes to pad. And you're going to see all these different pads sounds. These are actually a sound with a sequence already built into it. So if I bring up something, a pad, you can see that that's already a sequence and the sound is built in. So that pad has both the sequence and the sound. And if we go, let's try this. So exit out of this. So the takeaway from this part of the video I want you to understand is there's a difference between a sound and a pad. So if you're in this mix of keys and you hit pad, it's going to bring up the pad and you can select the pad. And if we exit out of this, and if you were in the main and go to mixer and go hit on that pad, you're going to see it's going to bring up a sound. So that's the first thing I want to clear up. A sound and a pad is different. They're using, a pad has a sequence and a sound. So when you're editing or you want to bring up a pad, because I know I have done this and I have the mixer and I bring this up and I go, where are my pads? It's not going to show in the mixer. But we exit out and we go to keys and we tap on that pad. Now it's going to be pad and it's going to show you the pad that we created. Now, let's create a pad for this style, Chain the Fools. And if we hit record edit, we go to new pad, it brings this screen up. Now there's a couple of things we need to look at this screen. And actually what we got to do is look at the screen and then go back. So first thing we want to do is, let's go back. The first thing we want to do is look at the tempo, because what we're going to do is we want to record this pad to that tempo if we're going to bring it into this style. So that's the first thing. The second thing we need to do is figure out where we're going to play this pad. Because remember, if you watch the previous videos, when the Korg Pa5x transposes these samples or these multi-samples, it can sometimes speed the sample up or slow it down. So if we're going to record a rhythm track or some kind of rhythm melody, we got to make sure that that is in sync with this style. So if we're going to bring this style up and then transpose it down 2 steps, the sample or the pad might not play with your style. So we'll go over here and we'll hit record edit, hit new pad. Okay, we got this screen up. We're going to create a new pad. So first thing we're going to do is change the tempo to 133 to make it match up with our style. Hit the CV length to 4. And I'm going to put the metronome on so I can hear it. Bring up the volume over here a little bit. And now we're going to hit record. Now, if you look at the bottom, this is actually pop kit. So actually we're going to record a little drum track. And if I hit my ride cymbal, so we hit the start play button on player 1 and begin recording. Sounds good. Stop the player, take our metronome off, and not the best timing, but you can see we just recorded this. If you took your time, you could actually record it. And again, you could record it with anything. We could actually record another melody if we wanted to. So I actually go up here and actually had saved this. So save this pad. I actually saved it. So we got it and we'll bring it up later. Okay, we're in the key setting. And what we're going to do, and we had pad 1 going on. It was just a snap. So let's go to pad, go to user,
and drums pad. This is a little thing we recorded. Now, it's not the exact recording that we just recorded in the video. I recorded this previous to this tutorial. That way we knew it was in time and all that, because it's easier to do that way instead of having all the gear in front of the keyboard. And exit. And now, if we play pad 1, so what did we just do? We went in, we created a pad, we recorded a pad, a sequence, and now we brought it in. And if we start the style, you can actually hear that our pad is playing right in with the style, because we play it, no drums. We'll bring in pad 1. So, what did we just do? We went in to record edit, new pad, set up our tempo, our CV length, and actually recorded a little drum track. And it fits right in with our style. Let's create something different in this pad. Maybe a string sound or brass sound. So we hit record edit, hit new pad, change our tempo up here to 133 so we match it up. We'll hit the CV length to 2. We'll put the metronome on, bring the volume up over here. So let's go over here to pop, record, that's for the drums, but let's go legacy, brass, attack brass, and hit the E4 and the B4. That sounds really good. So we'll hit escape or exit and arm the record. Now we're going to hit the player 1 and player 2. Sounds good. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to save pad, and what we're going to do is bring it up to brass, hit, and then we're going to go pad. We'll claim it pad. And go OK. Save. Now if we exit out of this and we go to pad 2, go to user, there's our brass hit. And if we play 2, now what we're going to do is exit out of this, make sure we're playing our E minor, and let's see what it sounds like. And if we play it by itself, and there you go. You've just created 2 pads by actually going in, hitting record edit, hit new pad, selecting your sound, making sure your timing is where you want it to be, and you recorded a pad, and it works fine. The question, how to bring a MP3 into a sound or a sample, and then create a sound, and then bring it into a pad. Again, you can't do that. The Korg will not allow you to bring in an MP3, but it will allow you to bring in a sample or a WAV file. So before we can create the pad, we have to hit record edit, sample edit, and then we have to go over and hit menu, import. Now, what you have is a listing, and what you have to do is go down here, import samples in a folder. We're going to go to that. Again, bring your USB drive in. that wave file has to be in a folder. It won't recognize it by itself. So we go select, and we can go to transfer. That's my USB drive. Wave loop is where I have the wave file. Click on it. There it is. Exit. And you can see. Now, if we hit execute, it will bring that wave file into the sampler. So let's exit out of this. And I've already done that. And here is a wave loop created. I took an MP3, converted it to a wave file in my computer, put it on the USB drive, and brought it in. And if we play that C4, cool little track. Now, what you do is you're going to have to create it into a sound. So then we have to go to Multisample, and we create it into a sample. And we already have, it's called Wave Loop. And what we've done is attached C4 to play that loop. So now what do? Now what we can do is we can exit out of this. And there's our sample. Then we go, and once we've created a multi-sample, then we can exit out of this, go to record edit, and now we're going to create a sound. And again, we go to user, create a new empty sound, go back, then we have to hit menu again, basics, go to oscillator, go to user, and we can hit, and where is our wave loop, a sample we just created. I'm not going to go into this too deep. Go back and watch those last 3 videos. You'll see how to do this to create a sound. So once you create a sound, let's exit out all this. Once you create a sound, you're now able to create a pad. We took the wave file, imported it, created a sample, then a multi-sample, then created a sound. Now, let's make a pad out of that sound. So what we're going to do is hit record edit, go over to new pad, and we're going to think about this. We're going to bring it up. Let's go into user. Here's the wave loop we just created, and exit. And if we play that C4, cool. Now, what we want to do is change the CV length to 4. And what we want to do, keep that metronome on. And I'm pretty sure this was at 95. So we'll bring that down to 95. Now, this is an important thing, because if you're just going to be using this as a loop for something, then it won't be that important because it's not going to be in time with another style. But if you want to bring this sound in and make it part of a style, then you got to make sure that the tempo of this recording is the same. That way it'll fit and it'll work. And the measures will be equal, because that's what's going to happen. I can't guarantee this is going to be a perfect recording, but it's going to show you what you have to do. Because if you're actually going to bring a wave file in and create a button with it, you got to really have the timing down and have everything in place so that if you're going to use it with a style, it's going to fit. So let's bring this volume up again, and let's hit the record button. And we got the CV length of 4. We got the metronome on, tempo at 95. Let's hit the thing and see what happens. Okay, let's see what we have. We'll turn the metronome off. Sounds cool. Now, all we have to do is go over here and say save pad, and we're going to call it wave loop pad Say okay, save. So now let's exit out of all this and let's go to pad 1. We can see the pads. Let's go to user, wave loop pad, exit. And now if we play pad 1, now we can see that it is what we created. We brought that wave file in, created a sample to a multi-sample to a sound, and then brought it in. And now it's playing as a button. Now, it probably won't go good with Chain the Fools, but again, this is something you're going to have to think about when you bring something in and you create a pad. And now, another thing I want to show you is once you create these pads, and again, I go back to what we said, if we're in the main, or if we're in the mixer rather, and we go here to pads, and we go here, and we're going to see it, it's going to say sound. So these are going to be all sounds that we created, and it's not going to be something that'll work. It probably won't work. But if we go exit out of this and we go to keys, go to pad, now when it says pad, now these are all the pads we hit. Actually, I created a pad here, and if we go back from a earlier video, and now we have row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Row, row, row. Now that you've created a pad, what we can do is we can go over here to the matrix, and you can already see that I've got a couple things going on here already. Go to edit, and you can see, matter of fact, let's get out of edit, and I'll hit row, row, row your boat. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Row, row, row. And the way we created this sample to loop, so basically this will loop forever. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. And if you remember, we created this drum loop. And if we go to edit, and we go get rid of this, are you sure? Yeah. And then we want to go, okay, user, let's go to wave pad and exit. Now we have just edited out of that. Now we've got that wave loop. And you can see that it's now playing in the matrix. And again, now the matrix could be playing your pads. So the first thing you have to do is, if you're going to bring in a wave file, go back and watch the earlier videos. What you have to do real quick, go to sample edit, then you go to menu, then you go to import, and remember, it's got to be in a folder. Import samples in folder. Then you're going to create a sample. Then once you create a sample, you can hit menu, then you're going to create a multi-sample. Then once you create the multi-sample, you exit out of that, exit out of everything, go back, hit sound edit, create a new sound. You're going to bring in, if we go to menu, basics, sound, oscillator, you're going to bring in your sound that you just created, or your sample, multi-sample you just created, create a sound, and then once you do that, you exit out of that, hit new pad, and now you bring in, user, you bring in that new sound you just created. Okay, I'm going to stop right now because there's a lot of information that we have just passed on to you in this tutorial on how to create a pad. And I want you to digest that before we go any further. But I just want you to be aware of this. So I have 3 pads that we created. And if I play 5-note scale, and you're going to notice that it goes up and down in tempo, but stays the same. Same with our brass hits. But row, row, row your boat. Row, row,
gently, row, row, row your boat, row, row.
You're going to see that row, row, row your boat does not change with the tempo. So I'm just going to give you a quick look at this because I want you to be aware of it, but I don't want you to have to go in and do anything yet because you got a lot to learn in the first part of this tutorial that I want you to understand first. But if you do understand that first part and you want to go, what you do is say we wanted to go in pad 1, we hit record edit, edit pad, let's hit that 5-note edit. Now this brings up the screen we've been working with here. If you hit menu, now it brings up a whole list of other menus. Actually, you can actually go in and step record that part. Here's all the notes that are in step record. And here, pad type. We're going to go into this in the second video, how to make that go with the tempo and all that. But if you exit back out of this, when you go to edit pad, this will be the thing you're going to look at, and then you hit menu, and then all these other menus will come up where you can, change and alter that pad.
So I hope this video helps you understand how to create a pad in the Korg Pa5x, whether you're creating it for the 4 on deck buttons or the matrix. Really cool stuff. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. You'll help us grow the channel. That way we can bring you more cool stuff. So take care, my friends, and thanks for watching.